So my hair looked cool when I was turned around like that, right?
Sure.
Nice. Space. The final frontier. It has to be. How could it not be? It's so vast. One of the problems with the vastness of space is, of course, its vastness. Oh, by the way, I'm doing a captain's log. I'm not talking to anybody. Captain's log. Vastness of space is vast. And that's the trouble. It takes so long just to get anywhere real quick. Because you spend so much time in space just trying to get through time and space. Note that down, Captain's log. That was pretty good. You're subjected to a ton of radiation. In fact, just going to Mars at regular human speed in a spaceship would give you about half the radiation you should be exposed to in your entire life. That's bad. We need some way to protect us from all this cosmic calamity and radiation. Could one of those ways be a fungus, Captain's log? Well, we're gonna have to figure that out in office hours. Woo! Hello, and welcome to the Office Hours podcast, a live part of the facility where good old Professor Kyle opens up his doors to all your comments, questions, super chats, all that kind of stuff, which we will be getting to today, of course. Like every office hours, I like to go through a number of topics that I found interesting over the course of the week in science, and we'll also be taking, like I said, all of the chat as you are seeing now. I do have super chat enabled. If you want me to see it, I will do my very, very best to get to all the supers. I try to balance it as best as I can, but if I do not see it, I apologize, but it's all going towards a good cause, which is the upkeep of this place, which is just tremendous. I also have the security team of the facility in the chat, so please no spamming, no all caps, all that stuff, or else they'll kick you out. They will. It's their entire job. That's what they do. So, before we get to your comments, questions, all that sort of thing, we'll be talking about a number of different topics today. Of course, as the title says, we will be talking about fungus, radio-eating fungus. That's not the correct term. We'll get to the correct term. Also be talking about current pandemic, just a little bit, I know, but we have to. Also something spacey and sciencey. If you're looking for something to watch this week, we'll be getting to the next thing to land on Mars. And no, it's not Val Kilmer. We'll also be taking one of your comments from the last episode of the facility, and I need to talk about this one because I did make a mistake. And finally, we'll be talking about the B-Man, Jeffy B, as me and Steven Strait of The Expanse like to call him, even though we're not friends. I have met him once. He's shorter than me. Anywho, a lot of people I've seen on the internet have been doing, because capitalism, a number of Jeff Bezos-related calculations, and I wanted to throw my hair in the ring, because he doesn't have any. But before that, we need to get to our first topic. However, there are two supers already, even before I started the stream. One from a new member of the facility, Elizabeth Calvert, who says, "Hey Kyle, love the show and all the outreach you do. I was wondering about Kevin. Is Kevin a unique individual... it's live. Individual person, or rather like a clone who has the consciousnesses of previous Kevins downloaded into his, her, its, theirs brains? It's hashtag sim for Psy." You forgot a P there. Thanks for the support and the tremendous support there, Elizabeth, but I can't talk about Kevin. We'll when we take a commercial break a little bit later on in the show, we'll talk about Kevin's and the Kevin's situation. Silas Chrism with the 20 says, "Hey Kyle, Professor Silas here. Hello, member of the facility, baby. Please keep up the hard work. I'm looking forward to working with the facility for a long time, as are you." That makes sense. Let's go on to our first topic of the day, because I'm a fun guy. So, like I said, the problem with the vastness of space is its vastness. And it would take months to get to Mars. And we're not going to have... By the way, why do I look so majestic right now? Ventilation. Anyway. So one of the problems with getting to a place like Mars or another planet or another star system, which we're never going to get there, probably, is that it takes a long time. With current rocket technologies, like chemical rocket technologies, and not something like fusion rocket or whatever, or fission rockets, it's going to take months or even years to get to a place. The biggest environmental hazard of space, if you're insulated from it, is going to be the cosmic radiation. And the radiation is dangerous because it can pass through most materials with ease, and there's a lot of it, and it's constant. Now, this presents a problem because, well, obviously you don't want to get space cancer, and you would eventually, or at least you greatly increase your chances of something terrible happening to you, because this is ionizing radiation. It's able to go through material and knock off electrons and split up molecules and, maybe break little strands of your DNA. And this causes mutation, and that usually leads to something runaway and terrible like cancer. So you don't want space cancer. But as it's hard to get someplace in space, but it's also hard to get stuff into space in the first place. That is to say, mass is an incredibly important component for a spaceship. I mean, if you look at a rocket that takes off, 95% of it is just fuel, because it needs to move all of that mass into space. And so the problem with the radiation and the mass part is that you need thick stuff, or a lot of stuff, to act as a shield from the radiation. So if you brought something like, if you lined the ISS with a water kind of shield, like, layer of water, it would help a lot, but water is very heavy. In fact, it's 62.4 pounds per cubic foot. I went to engineering school. Or 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter, which is much easier. Or around that. Depends. Is it seawater? Anyway, so water would be good. A lot of metal would be good. This would be good shielding. But it's heavy, and that's the prob. So I was made aware of a fascinating new study that looks to add a new, possible option in solving this problem, and that is fungus. So after the disaster that was Chernobyl, which I've talked a lot about, made a couple of videos on, after that, scientists noticed something weird, which was a certain species of fungus that seemed unaffected by the tremendous levels of background radiation that was near the failed nuclear reactor. And now what it appears that these fungi are doing, is that they are using the radiation as a way to synthesize. So if you think of photosynthesis, that is using the energy that photons have to break molecules apart and release the energy that the organism can then use, to grow. So that's photosynthesis, and that's using energy from the sun. What it seems like these fungi are doing is taking the energy from radioactive particles, so literally particles, high energy, zipping around, slamming into stuff, and they're using that to break apart the materials that they're ingesting and taking in to synthesize. So these would be, instead of phototrophic, taking in, like eating or taking in sunlight, what these fungi are doing are radiotrophic, so using radiation to do this. So the scientists who came up with this study here, which I'm showing a figure of, what they thought was, well, what if we could use radiotrophic fungi as a shield for radiation? Because we know that radiation impacts them, and they can use it, and better yet, this is a living shield that is self-replicating. So you wouldn't have to take that much mass of it up into space, because it could grow in space once it's there. And once the mass is in space, if it can make more of itself, good. Microgravity. Unless you're under thrust. So what these scientists did was they took some of this radiotrophic bacteria and they put it up in the International Space Station. And they did a number of tests with it and a number of controls, of course. So they had just plain agar petri dishes as a control, so nothing in it. And then they also had some of this fungus. And as you can see in the setup here, they have a camera. And this is in the International Space Station. They have a camera looking at this. But what this is looking at is the split petri dishes with just agar and control and some with fungi. Radiation sensors behind them. Okay. And then radiation coming in from space as it always does. So the design of this experiment is quite simple. Radiation is coming in from space. If the fungi are taking in some of that radiation and acting as some kind of self-replicating shield, then you should see less radiation at the sensor than you see at the control. If it does nothing, then you'd have the same amount. So what did they find? Well, specifically, what this study found was that, let me pull it up here, was that with just a millimeter thickness of fungi, which is very, very, very small, just a millimeter, the attenuation was about 2% of radiation intook. Doesn't sound like that much, but we're talking about just a millimeter. 2% reduction in cosmic radiation. So what the study goes on to say, a 20 centimeter layer of this fungus could largely negate, completely eliminate, the annual dose equivalent of the radiation environment on the surface of Mars. So if you're on the surface of Mars, so what is 20 centimeters? 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. I went to engineering school. So you're talking about less than a foot of fungi thickness. THICC for cubic centimeters if you want to be scientific about it. But less than a foot thick of fungus would completely eliminate the radiation environment of Mars. And they go on to say that it would only take 9 centimeters, just half of that, if you're also mixing in the fungus with some sort of material on Mars, like the Martian regolith. So if you start shoring up this material with basically Mars dirt, then you only need 9 centimeters, and you have a growing, self-replicating shield that could that acts as a radiation shield. And so I think that is absolutely fascinating. I've never seen a concept of a living radiation shield. I've always heard about water and metal, and so I think that is straight up fascinating. Radiotrophic bacteria growing at a failed nuclear power plant sent into space to prevent space cancer on Mars. There's not a whole lot of cooler words I can put in that sentence. Fantastic. Let's go to the chat. We have 10 from Book Queen, who says, Kyle, random topic. Neil deGrasse Tyson says that there's positively no chance of us living in a simulation. Wouldn't the simulation protect itself by making sure any tests on it would come up inconclusive? Now, I'm not sure about that. You're stipulating what a future technology would do or not, and we don't really know what a future technology would do or not, of course. And I did do a short piece on what Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks about simulation theory, and it's back on the channel if you want to see that. We have Rodrigo de la Gala Bustamante with the 50, who says, hi from Peru. Well, hello. I'm going to start a project of science and geek culture in Espanol. I'm still scared if I can't keep up with this or if I make a mistake while I try to inform and entertain people at the same time. But you are my inspiration, Kyle. Thank you. And people like you who want to learn and want to better themselves and want to educate others, you're my inspiration, buddy. So good luck. We have a 5 from Happy AMVs who says, which happens first, the disappearing of light or the effects of gravity from the sun? Would there be a speed of gravity? Yes, the speed of gravity is the speed of light. The fastest that anything can travel, the fastest that any information can travel is light speed. So if the sun suddenly evaporated, 8 minutes later, you would see the last of its sunlight and the gravitational effect on the planet would end. And all the planets would be flung off into space in a straight line tangential to where they were traveling in the circle of their orbit. And they just go, ah! Then we'd be in a in a Rogue Planet situation. Adam Race with the 10 says, usually don't catch you live. I like to save these for background listening while working. Always great stuff. Wanted to ask, who's the nicest famous person you know? Adam Savage is close. He's a fantastic human being. Sorry, I'm just trying to get through all these super chats. Adam Savage is close. I'd say the nicest person I ever met, well, I mean, I'll give it to Adam. Stephen Strait from The Expanse, the lead actor on The Expanse, is fantastically nice, and I want to be his best friend. But I will say, like, when I met Adam Savage for the first time and I told him I was going to be doing that follow-up Mythbusters show, like, the first time I met him, he gave me his personal cell phone number. He gave me a hug. He said, good luck. If you need anything, call or text me. So he's a wonderful man. Hit the Man with 200 NOK. Don't even know what that is. Evening, Kyle. Associate Professor Hit the Man here. Oh, from Norway. New facility member. Thank you for being here. I'm glad to see you saw the papers I shared in the members of in the facility biology section. I'm really happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That's true. We discuss physics, biology, engineering, D&D, Magic the Gathering, all this stuff we get up to on the facility Discord, and we talk about it at length with a lot of very smart people. Babtil with the 20 made it to a live stream. Woo! Simping for science, baby. If you're going to simp for anything, I'm not going to sell my bathwater. I won't. Although, I will teach a class about statistics called the Bell Delphine curve for money. Oh, what's the bell curve on people who simp for her, you think? Couple of standard deviations in the wrong direction, you know what I mean? Taking shots for no reason. Sophia Rose, with 5, says, my husband wants to know how long it would take for the fungi to do its business on Mars. No idea. I don't know what the growth rate is. But as long as you're giving it a suitable environment, then it's going to continue to grow. It's self-replicating, of course, as the paper said, because it's instead of sunlight, it's taking in space radiation. So, but I don't know what the time rate is on the growth. Let's pause the supers for now because we need to get on to our next topic. But Nicholas, with a 10, it says, hey, supervillain, love the how dare you? I'm not. Has science been able to explain yet when you blow air past 2 pieces of paper, the suction is created bringing the paper together and not apart? Yes? If I was to blow between 2 pieces of paper, let's pause the supers for now. Let's get to the next topic. But if you blow between 2 pieces of paper, you increase the flow rate of air in between those 2 pieces. Now, when you increase the flow rate of a fluid, the pressure goes down. So relatively speaking, the pressure in between the 2 pieces of paper will be slightly less than the atmospheric pressure of the entire atmosphere pushing everything around it. And so, the atmosphere pushes it inward. That's the explanation, baby. Gern Fizztierg with the 10 says, if I remember correctly, the Earth's magnetic field helps protect us from radiation. Correct? Yes. Would a powerful enough electromagnetic field be a feasible way to protect an interplanetary ship? Yes. Yes, you're correct on both counts. Let's get to our second topic. Okay, so I know you're probably sick. You're not sick. You're probably sick and tired of hearing about the current pandemic, but since most of you, or many of you, are in the United States right now, we need to keep talking about it because the United States has failed this test. So I just want to say something quick. So I'm going to use my invisibility technology in a second to show you what's behind me. But I want to quickly stress something in relation to how people in America view the cost-benefit analysis here of the pandemic. So I believe in America, there's a lot of people of a certain ideological orientation who believe that the cost of coronavirus economically is not worth locking the whole country down economically is not worth it, because everyone getting coronavirus will be less bad than locking down. I can't stress this enough that is so wrong. And I think people aren't thinking of the knock-on effects here. yes, the entire country, or at least America, locking itself down, people, losing jobs and, 30 million people out of work in the United States. Yes, that is absolutely tragic and very hard to deal with. It's a pandemic. There's not going to be any great answers here. But the knock-on effects of millions of people getting coronavirus can be terrible. When you think of the lost time at work, when you think of the medical expenses, all that, you have an economic cost that completely outshines what lockdown is doing. And so to illustrate that, I want to show you this graph. So how much would it take economically to really prepare for a pandemic or really handle the pandemic in a systematic and smart way that makes it less likely that this is going to happen again or something like this? Well, estimated about $26.6 billion to put a plan into place right now. That's a lot of money. Most of it is going into ending the meat trade in China, reducing spillover diseases via livestock, $600 million. Spillover disease is what coronavirus is. It's a zoonotic disease. So it originated in some animal, and then through enough chance encounters with humans, the virus mutated enough that it could jump into another host. That's called a spillover event, and it's a zoonosis. It's called. 500 million monitoring wildlife trade. Another big chunk of it, reducing tropical deforestation by 40%, $6 billion. Now, the more that humans encroach on environments that they haven't been exposed to before, the more we're going to be exposed to pathogens we've never seen. And so by, eating quote unquote bush meat and trading in exotic animals and encroaching into tropical areas, we're going to just encounter more pathogens that we haven't seen before. And each one of them has a chance to be something terrible. That's what happened with Ebola, for example. So I say all that to say this. That's a lot of money. $26 billion. Okay, well, what is the estimated cost of doing nothing? Not locking down and just letting people get coronavirus, as some people in America say. Well, I'm going to disappear for a second because I needed to show you the scale of this. $26 billion versus $11.5 trillion. That's lost GDP from people not being able to work because they have coronavirus, and mortality costs. 11.5 trillion. So this is 1,000 times worse. 3 orders of magnitude worse. Huzzah! I reappeared. So when you consider the knock-on effects of people getting sick, not being able to work, this is beyond lockdown, and everything else it would do to the system, you're talking about 1,000 times more cost, relatively speaking, than just trying to economically prepare and shelter ourselves from these things. So if someone says, like, it's not worth it, we need to go back to work now, we need to go back to school now, that's very short-term thinking, my friend. We need to get this under control now so we can go back to our lives even faster. Oh, that was kind of intense, huh? Let's see what the chat has to say about it. We have Master of All, 1294, frequent commenter and supporter, who says, if the radiotrophic fungi was to be used for a spaceship and a mission to Mars, wouldn't a secondary protection measure be needed until the fungi grows to a sufficient amount to be adequate protection? Again, I do not know the growth rate. It could be the case that it provides enough protection as it's growing. So even like the paper said, just a millimeter reduces it by 2%. So I don't know the time rate. We would have to look at that because, say, if 6 months worth of exposure is dangerous level, or 1 month, if it grows fast enough in 2 weeks, then you could allow yourself to get a certain dose and be quote-unquote fine. So you'd really have to know the time rate. I have 25 from the G2 Kira, who says, putting out the good work. Love your work. Thanks for using your platform to speak out about what needs to be talked about. Hey, look, I'm just a guy. I'm just a nerd with a vast headquarters that's powered by a black hole, and creates basilisks. But thank you for your support. I'm doing the best I can to be as intelligent as I can all the time. Okay, I'm gonna get this one right from one of my facility members, the Rushanek, with the 10, who says, "What chances do you think the ice caps melting will expose us to prehistorical pathogens?" Yeah, so the current, and this has already happened, the current global warming trend is warming up areas that have never been unfrozen, or at least not in tens of perhaps millions of years. So in like Antarctica or other Arctic places, you have this permafrost, and it's called permafrost because it's permanently frosted. But you have this stuff in the ground that's never been unfrozen, and it stands to reason that if some of it thaws because of current global warming trends, we could be exposed to pathogens we've never encountered before, similar to going into the rainforest and cutting everything down and eating everything. I think that's absolutely possible, and I believe this has already happened to reindeer in some part of somewhere. I forget, but permafrost thawing, and they were all exposed to, was it a form of bubonic plague or anthrax or something like that? It was bad, and they all died. Yes, that's probably going to happen. Another knock-on effect of global warming. And I should say that if we're not prepared, if we can't, at least in America again, if we can't put on a damn mask and just stay home for a while, even when it hurts, if we can't do that kind of thing, think of how much we're going to fail on global warming. That's what should keep you up at night. Jim Kelly with the 20 says, "Can we use materials on the moon in something like a 3D printer to make another 3D printer from complete scratch?" Yes. So that would be one of the big advantages of 3D printers, having something that can replicate itself, and so you don't have to bring a lot of material on the spaceship. You can just build everything in situ. So you would have to come up with the right recipe and the right machine. Excuse me. But you can make something with Martian regolith or lunar regolith or whatever that could be used as the materials. I think that's absolutely possible, and we see that. Let's go to the non-supers for a second. October Raven says, "Hey Roko, love the basilisk. What do you think is more viable as a mass-produced beef replacement? Insect-based food or soy-based food?" Definitely insects. There's a lot more of them, and the water that it takes to grow a kilogram of insect protein is like an order of magnitude or more less. So like 10 to 100 times less. So I think insect eating is definitely the way of the protein future, if you ask me. Whoa, we got a 50 from It's Already Rendered. "Hey show, love the Kyle." Stop confusing me. Gosh. If you were a bender, which bender would you be? Earth, fire, water, or air? I would be a robot. But seriously, maybe water. Water's much stronger than you think, and it's in everything. If you could really manipulate water, you could annihilate any creature on the planet. Think about that. Water is in every single one of every single thing's cells. And if you could move water out of anything or into anything, you'd be the most dangerous thing on the planet. Think about that. Otakumin706, and let's pause the super chats for a while so we can get to our next topic, but Otakumin says, "Yes, the reindeer died from anthrax exposure," and yes, I believe that was from permafrost unthawing. So let's go to our next topic. I don't know why I said it. Where? So just to remind you, we already talked about this. Oops. There we go. Oh, man. This thing is big. In fact, this is almost correctly scaled. So if you want something sciencey and spacey to watch and or keep an eye out for this week, the Perseverance rover that is going to be landing on Mars. It looks a lot like Curiosity, I know. It's hopefully going to launch this Thursday, unless recent information says it's not going to. But Thursday is going to be a new mission to Mars launched by NASA, and it's going to have this Perseverance rover. And it's going to land similarly to the 7 minutes of terror, like the Curiosity rover. So it's going to be lowered via floating sky crane, which is insane to me. to do on another planet. It's just cool. It's all just cool. But Perseverance is going to land, and it's going to land in a specific crater. Now, why is it going to land in a specific crater? Well, it's going to land in a crater that has been identified from satellite imagery that looks to have had water in it at some point. Well, billions of years ago. And it looked like it had an inflow from the crater, an outflow from a crater. You can see deltas of the deposited material. That's one way to identify ancient flows of water. If it looks like there was a delta somewhere, which is when water flows, it's carrying sediment and other debris and detritus with it, and it deposits that debris as it flows, and you can have a buildup of this stuff called a delta. So we found a delta in one of these craters, indicating that there was moving water in it at some time. So it's going to land in that crater. And the Perseverance rover is equipped unlike any other machine that's been on Mars so far. It is a suite of astrobiology. So it has a number of tools and sensors and thingamabobs that are going to try to see if we can identify signs of ancient life or current life. Probably not that. But it has the tools that you would need to identify, fossils of ancient microbes, or the presence, some kind of impression, some kind of historical clue, let's say, that life was there. And if we were to find even just a fossil of a few microbes or something like that, finding other life in the universe would be the most important thing we've ever discovered ever, and probably for all time. More important than fire, more important than Snapchat. Finding other life in the universe would redefine would redefine our place in the universe again. It's happened a number of times when we finally accepted that we weren't the center of the universe or the center of the solar system. Happened again when we discovered our common ancestry with all living things, that we weren't just put here as some super intelligent thing. And then when we find other life, it's poised to happen yet again, where now humans and everything on Earth, it's not even singular. It's not even the only time it's happened. And if it could have happened on Mars, that means it could have happened in many other places. And so our relation with the universe would immediately change and be redefined. And a number of ideologies would have a lot of explaining to do. Yeah, no, it's, I'm sure it says it's somewhere. Anyway. So if you want, getting a little, I'm walking the edge there a little bit, but if you want something sciencey and spacey to dig your eyes into, check out the launch of the Perseverance rover this Thursday. It's going to be good. I don't know if Dr. Moo worked on this one. She's working on one of them. But if she is working on this one, thanks, Dr. Moo. What a smart lady. Let's see what the chat has to say. We have Debts Gaming, recent facility member, with a 10 who says, please use this to buy another tiny mug for your desk. The current one looks lonely. It's not that the... Okay, it is a tiny mug. Sometimes I like to sip little shots of espresso, and I like the... Look, if you're just going to have a little bit of espresso, I like the volume to fit the vessel. And so I have tiny cups everywhere. There's a tiny cup everywhere for me. It's an espresso shot just walking by. Don't gift that. See what else in the chat has to say. Black Hat 420. Nice. Says, I hope Mass Effect 4 revives the franchise. I don't know if they're making that game. But I would also like to see it revived. One of the best sci-fi series of all time. Ed Scar, Dr. Moo is cool. Will we see her again? Yes? You can follow her on social media and all that stuff. I haven't invited her to the facility yet, but I can. But I'm social distancing from everything at the moment. Loki says, loving the beard. Oh, it's an experiment. Luis Valenzuela says, Kyle, do you think future rovers will be more like the Boston Dynamics Dogbot? I mean, it would offer a wider range of traversal options. I agree, but the more... So, why you see, you know, Mars rovers look like slow-moving wagons, science wagons, is that they're very robust and they're very simple. And so, there's not a lot that can go wrong with them. And so, because no one's going to be there to repair it. Something like a spot robot, rather, would... I mean, they'd have to be very, very robust because... the ability for something to go wrong with one of their legs or their sensing systems or something like that, there's a lot more failure points and a lot more troubleshooting that you might have to do. And when you are an entire planets away, that's a risk you can't really take. You don't want to take a risk with something that's very complicated because it takes years and billions of dollars to get to that point. So you want to go with something tried, true, tested, simple. Triple TS, STTT, as they say. And they is me. Mateus with the 50 MX, whatever that is. Hello there, Kyle. What can be done to create awareness for people who don't believe in COVID before it's too late for them? Hashtag simping for science. Yeah, if you don't... Again, I'm probably talking about Americans, but if you don't believe in COVID, I don't know what there is to be done for you. I think it might come down to having personal experience with it, because that always reframes. And the sad thing is that because, again, in the United States, because we're not getting a handle on this thing, it won't be long until many people know of some kind of personal example of how bad this is and how bad it can be. I don't want that to be the shock to the system people need, but... you know, as I've said before, in communicating these kind of things, maybe if you're just talking person to person, you should share someone's story or someone's picture or someone's experience, personal. Don't numbers, like I said in another episode, but large numbers, we are not equipped to really internalize large numbers. So give someone's story, how they're going to have lung damage for the rest of their lives, or, you know, they were my age and they're never going to play sports again kind of thing because of the respiratory damage. Try something like that. It's morbid, but our situation is quite dire in the United States at the moment. And it doesn't seem like it because our leadership has been terrible and counterproductive and stuff. Drew with the 50. Oh! He says, hey, Kyle, still love the show. Have you personally encountered people pushing back on the mask thing, or have you been confronted over it? If so, how did you handle it, or how would you handle it? Yeah, I went to a different state a couple weeks ago, and someone made fun of me for wearing a mask. So, yeah, it's insane out there, man. I didn't say anything. I was walking, and it caught me off guard. I was like, wait, what just happened? And I kept walking. But I tell people to put their mask on. And I tell people at the supermarket to step off when they're too close to me. And they can't see my face, but I'm angry. Be kind but firm. Like a good pillow. Good pillow isn't firm. What am I talking about? Grin Reaper of Trolls with the 20 says, hey, Killer Hertz. Okay. I think I saw a paper about the rover wheels. I think they're made from some metal that was designed to deform and flex back. Yeah, so you want a rover, again, to be very robust. You don't want anything going wrong. And so there's a lot of testing for the wheels of rovers specifically, because they need to be going through kilometers and kilometers of rough terrain that's never been stepped on before, as far as we know. And also, the materials are different. Like, regolith is a different composition from sand and rock and stuff here that has a lot of erosion. So a lot of testing to make sure it's going on. And let's let's stop the supers for just a second so we can get on to the rest of our topics for today. But Jim Kelly with another 50. Oh! Says, do you have any science suggestions for countering tear gas and secret police kidnappings happening in Portland? No, I do not. Yeah, what's going on in Portland is also insanity. And I don't have any personal sciencey tips for tear gas. I mean, I guess I could do research about it, but it's not really my place at the moment. I'm not super, I'm not up to date on the situation. And what I will say is that tear gas is banned in most countries as a weapon of war. Rocky with the 10 says, I love this science boy, aka my name. Kiss, hug, kiss, 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 kiss. Don't touch me. Thank you for the 10. Let's get on to our next Topeka, Kansas. We have moved on. I'm big again. We've now moved on to our peer review portion of Office Hours, where I take one of your fun, interesting corrections, comments, concerns from the most recent episode on the channel, and I highlight it, and then I give a plaque to you, Kevin, based on how good it is. Today's peer-reviewed comment comes from Rachel Newton-John and her sister Olivia, who says, hey, Kyle, love the Kyle. Why is this a thing with you? All of you. Says, in relation to the latest episode, which was how to slow light down and travel faster than light, technically, with an asterisk. Says, at 4 minutes, you say, light can slow down by up to 75% in water. Ambiguous wording, -1 mark. Dang! Almost had a perfect score. But, Rachel, you are pointing out a mistake that I did make. So in that episode, I said that in water, because of its refractive index, I said this, light can slow down by up to 75%. That's not correct. It slows down to 75% of its normal speed in vacuum, which is 299 yada yada, 299,798 kilometers per second? I forget. 300,000 kilometers per second. It slows down to 20. See? This is why I'm wrong. It slows down to 75% of light speed. So it's not going down by 75%, meaning that the remaining speed is 25% of light speed. It's the other way around. So light slows down by about 25% in water. And this was the mistake that I made. It should be noted and rectified. I should put it in the comments and pin it. But I'm kind of lazy. But water does not slow down light that much. If it did, when you looked at something in a pool, then it would be so much harder to grab things in pools. You ever like try to, grab like one of those like dive rings in the pool and you totally miss? It's because of refraction. And if it's slowed down by what I said, which is a mistake, then it'd be way off and it'd look really weird. And it'd probably change a lot of things. But for making me think about all those possible ways that life could change if it was really this mistake, which is a mistake. Rachel, you are now an honorary professor at the facility. Fantastic. Fantastic. Why aren't you clapping? What do you mean? Rachel, I was gonna get you a plaque. But now, looks like someone needs talking to. So I'll be right back after this short commercial break. This November, you have a decision to make. Kyle Hill wants to make sure all education is available. Kyle Hill he wants to increase NASA's budget. Kyle Hill has actually been seen using a computer before. This November, don't vote for Kyle Hill because you should take it really seriously, but in this, vote Kyle Hill for administrator of the facility. Yep, it comes up every couple years, just like the Constitution, I guess that's now canon. And this November, Kyle Hill is asking you to help him continue on as administrator at the facility. That's Kyle Hill, 2024 administrator. An education for every child, and a yo for every mouth. Paid for and supported by the Foundation to re-elect Kyle Hill as administrator. Hi, I'm Kyle Hill, and I support this message. Who made those, you know? I don't have a PAC. I don't even have a super PAC. It's just me. But I am running for re-election of. Let's see what the chat has to say. That art, by the way, was by one of my original facility members, Jezebu, who's incredibly talented at making art, and that poster is going to get me reelected for sure. Loki of House Bent says, "Are all the streams like this?" They are now. Do not vote for me. Don't write me in on the ballot or anything. Take it seriously. Do something. Because don't. Master of All, again with the 5. Hey, Kyle, the background music reminds me of the music in the closed-off testing facilities in Portal 2. Where'd you find... I have no relation to Aperture Science or Cave Johnson, and if you hear otherwise, somebody is lying. Kevin. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you. No connection to Aperture at all. Squirrely Dan with the 5 who says, Aria for administrator. How dare you? She doesn't even have a poster. We have Cy Slider with the 5 who says, what's the difference between sending information faster than light and instead opening a wormhole to send the information in terms of violating causality? Well, Cy, the difference here is that traveling faster than light and technically traveling faster than light could is the difference here. So you can't send information FTL. Because that's the ultimate speed of information. Nothing can go faster than light speed. What a wormhole would allow you to do is traverse more space than you could at light speed. So if you open up a wormhole to another side of the universe and you walk through it, obviously you have now crossed half the universe in 1 second or whatever. And that distance, ignoring the curvature that you created, that distance is more than light could travel in the same amount of time. So you've traveled faster than light could have traveled, but you're not breaking any laws because when you walk through a wormhole, you're just walking through a wormhole. Nothing is actually traveling faster than light, relatively speaking. In that case, you're just walking through a wormhole. So you could take information to another side of the universe, and it would be like sending that information FTL, but you're not. If you were to try to send information to someone orbiting the sun in less than 8 minutes, you couldn't, because that's how long light takes to get there. But a wormhole would circumvent that by folding space such that you could get somewhere faster than light could get there. We have Ryan Radford with the 5. It says, would you be willing to do an episode on the Destiny 2 live event where they blew up a big old space weapon and then crashed it into a planet? I do like Destiny quite a bit. I don't play it very much, but maybe. Grin Reaper with another 19 who says, I've worked around formaldehyde. Consequently, I've had to wear a respirator for 9 hours. I really don't understand why people think wearing a little mask is bad for you. I think because, in America, there's a confluence of bad things where, Americans very much value their personal freedom, their freedom of their own health. They don't like authority and large government and stuff. And so combine all of that with a requirement to wear a face mask, and you have people who are naturally going to rebel against that. And I guess if you've never had to wear a mask for a long period of time, it is annoying and it is cumbersome. But again, in the context of the situation, wearing a mask for a long period of time, yes, it's slightly harder to breathe and your own breath stinks and you didn't know that before, but you're literally saving lives. Actually. I don't know, man. Let's pause the supers, and we got to get to our last topic, which is Jeffy B. Oh, man. Hey, I can do that, too. Here. I'm so rich. Actually, it doesn't sound like that. He kind of sounds more like this. I'm rich. Don't send that to him. So I've seen, just because of the current state of things, and people talking about economic costs and wealth disparity gaps and blah 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 blah. A lot of people talk about Jeff Bezos and how he has an obscene amount of money, which he does. He has about $110 billion. Now he doesn't have that physical money because you couldn't fit all that money in a mansion, but he has the most money, and a lot of people are doing a lot of comparisons and math to show just how obscene that amount of money is, and they use that as a reflection on capitalism, blah, 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 blah. But I wanted to throw my hair in the ring and do some calculations of my own to give you just kind of an order of magnitude on how much 100 billion as a thing is. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, he did a really fun comparison, but he did this with Bill Gates, and this will be even better because he's richer. So Neil deGrasse Tyson once on an episode of Star Talk, he said, what would you stop for on the street in terms of money? Like, would you stop on the street to pick up a penny? No, probably not. A dime? Probably not. A quarter? I'd probably stop to pick up a quarter. I would, personally, me, Kyle speaking. So if I would stop to pick up a quarter, that is some indication of my relation to money and wealth, right? So if I think I could use a quarter, and then I'm making the decision that it is worth my time to stop and pick up a quarter based on my relative wealth. You may not think that's what you're doing, but that's pretty much what you're doing. So I know my net worth ish. I know what I make in a year, and I would stop and pick up a quarter, let's say. Now, if you do the same comparison for Jeff Bezos, who's worth $100 billion, what amount of money would it take for him to stop? If we use the quarter comparison, what amount of money would be worth his time to stop and pick up? You do the same comparison, and it's $200,000. Which is to say that any stack of money less than $200,000 is literally not worth Jeff Bezos' time to pick up off the street for free. Think about the scale of that. Where for more money than the majority of Americans will make in 5 years, 6, 8 years, it's literally not worth his time to stop walking. That's how much $100 billion is. Now, $100 billion is such a large number that if he had that amount of dollars, like physical $1 bills, $100 billion is more dollars than seconds in this millennium. If you were earning $1 a second since year 0 into now, you would still not even have close to what Jeff Bezos has. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to chat. I'm getting money depressed. It's a lot of money. Some say too much. So let's go just for another fiver or so here. Tenebrae Patra says, I do pick up every penny. I don't. They make my hands smell like pennies. Sticky Rice Cooked says, do you even lift, bro? Not for Jeff. Do I lift? Yes? What do you want? Don't talk about me. Get out of here. Thank you. Doing Outstanding, one of my original facility members, says, Tom Scott's video on the scale of this money was really awesome. Yes, so he did, Tom Scott is a fantastic science communicator. He did a video on, you know, if, how big is $1 billion, really? And, I think he equated moving 1 meter with $1, and then he drove for an hour before he had $1 billion, something like that. Vernon Perry with the 50. Oh! Who says, Kyle of Hilgard, god of Argon, communicator of science and wearer of mass for Supreme Director 2024. Thanks for making quarantine bearable. Love. Hey, thank you for the donation. It's going right into trying to make quarantine more bearable for you, so thank you. That's a substantial amount of money. Central Music Piano 29, frequent supporter, commenter, donator. $50, great office hours, keep it up, Kyle. Continue to inspire and call forth critical thought. If there's one thing I am, it's critical. Sometimes it harms me in relationships. Too bad. Another 5 from Master of All says, not an Aperture Science associate? Makes sense. Black Mesa had to get their research somehow. I'm not affiliated with Gordon Freeman, Black Mesa, Aperture. I'm not affiliated. I have no idea what a resonance cascade is. Yeah, they're still talking about it. Well, put out some information. When life gives you lemons, I'm going to burn down your house with lemons. Ryan says, how could we introduce ourselves to aliens? I don't know. No idea. So a lot of fun sci-fi has fun ideas about how we would communicate with aliens, most notably recently Arrival. But think about that, well, aliens are going to be really advanced if they ever come visit us because they had to get to us in a reasonable amount of time, which means they have very good technology or very good spaceships or what have you. But the issue here is, for me, is that we don't know what these aliens will be like. Sci-fi has kind of primed us to think that they're going to be humanoid and they're going to have arms and mouths and eyes, but there's nothing, evolutionarily speaking, that says they have to have that. Which is why, speaking of Black Mesa, I do like Half-Life because the ultimate enemies in that game are just telekinetic, like worms, just grubs. They don't even have eyes. They just have what's that movie? They just have a Starship Trooper's mouth that sucks people's brains out. So they might not have arms, eyes, they might not be able to hear us, see hand signals, or hear our voices or anything like that. So communicating with aliens is going to depend exactly on what kind of being it be. We have a 20 from Jonathan who says, Simp for Science. Woo! Kyle, could we theoretically convert all the atoms that make use up into light and travel at light speed, travel in time, and then convert the light back into the atoms that make us up to travel in time? Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Jonathan. I have very little idea of what you just said. But to travel at the speed of light, we would have to lose all of our mass. We would have to be massless. Only massless particles can travel at the speed of light. Even in the Large Hadron Collider, which is flinging just protons, which are indescribably tiny, they still can't get up to light speed with that thing. I think it's 3 meters per second below light speed, which means they're like at 99.9999% the speed of light, but they can't get there because they theoretically cannot if something has mass. So to travel at light speed, we would have to be massless, and the only way for us to do that is for us to not exist. I mean, you can't lose, you're made of stuff. Star stuff, in fact. As someone with a turtleneck once said. I don't know why I'm taking shots at Carl. Let's stop the super chats for a second. Well, let's stop the super chats because we're winding down here, and I wanted to see everyone. Jay Howard says, Sir Jeff, MD, DDS, Esquire for Administrator 2020. How dare you? I will not allow Dr. Jeff to be elected. If you want to know what the heck I'm talking about, it's facility canon that you can learn on the facility Discord And on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/KyleHill, you can join the facility today and join. There's 1,200 people and over 700 in the Discord talking with me every day, doing all this stuff. It's great. Steve Jester with the 5 says, Jeff's ex-wife just donated $1.7 billion to charities. Great. Good. Fantastic. Not a whole lot of her wealth, if she got half, or is getting half, but that's fantastic. I appreciate people, I appreciate the mega rich who have committed to donate all or most of their wealth away before they die. Like, what could they use it for? A really fancy mausoleum? Yeah. It's already rendered with another 10. It says, Mass Effect had the Hanar, which were jellyfish like the Elcor, and they were kind of like elephants. The Krogan, which are lizards that breed like crazy, or at least they did. They did until the genophage, created by Solarians. Yeah, I think Mass Effect did a great job of showing how different things could look, but even then, all of those different alien races spoke and had body shapes that looked vaguely familiar. We might not get that in Aliens. So, I think I'm going to end it there. What did we talk about today? Well, of course, before taking all of your generous donations to the facility proper, we talked about radiotrophic fungus that may be used as a self-replicating space radiation shield to protect people on Mars from space cancer. How cool is that? Doesn't get much cooler. We also talked about how the economic cost of lockdown is not going to be close to what it will be or would be if we don't do anything at all. And we need to keep that scale always in our minds. We also talked about the Perseverance rover launching, hopefully, this Thursday to go look for life on Mars, which would be the most important discovery human beings have ever made, ever. We also took one of your comments from the last episode of the facility, and we gave someone a plaque, or not, pointing out a mistake that I made. And finally, we talked about the obscenity of the amount of money that Jeff Bezos has. Thank you again to everyone who donated today to the facility, to our mission of science, communication, and critical thinking. Another episode of the facility this week, of course, it's going to be about one of the most dangerous water-based situations you can ever find yourself in, and the physics and engineering of that situation. There'll be another office hours next week, but if you want to see everything a day earlier, and you want to get your names on ARIA, and you want to interact with me on Discord and the like, you can go to patreon.com/KyleHill, and if you sign up, you get all that cool stuff that I just mentioned. Security will also put it in the chat. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Be nice to each other, because this is all we got.